This video is about how to create a workflow in Jira. This video should be useful to product owners who need to regulate communication and cooperation inside the team, and for product owners who will probably be the ones creating a workflow. And the first thing you need to remember is that a workflow you create in Jira should be a reflection of an existing workflow inside your team. And it's going to be a visualization for your team to remind them of that workflow and to help them work according to it and to help them follow that workflow. So before you go ahead and start creating a workflow, you have to figure out a way which your team goes through every sprint, from point A to point B, and point A being defining the scope of the sprint, and point B being delivering the scope of the sprint, and what are the stops on the way from point A to point B. In my case, that is going to be point A is going to be defining the scope of sprint. The next step is going to be starting work on the sprint on the stories, and step after that is going to be completing the work and running through TDD. The step after that is going to be verifying definition of done by user acceptance tester, and final step is of course verifying the work by the product owner, which is delivering the results. If you don't know what your steps are, what your stops along the road are, you have to figure it out before you start creating your workflow. Next, I will just show you the workflow which works for me, for my roadmap, and for how I do it. So to create a workflow, you need to go to Site Administration, pick Jira. You could have gone straight to Jira. Choose Issues and Workflows. And here normally you will see active workflows, which means some projects of your Jira are already using them, and below are inactive workflows. Inactive are those nobody is using. And at the bottom you're gonna see the Add Workflow button. Now you have to name your workflow, and please note that in Jira you're going to have to also associate your workflow with workflow scheme and sometimes with the screen scheme. So when you're giving a name to your workflow, be as specific as possible in order to not confuse yourself further. So I will call this one sample workflow, so that I know that this is specifically the workflow and not the workflow scheme and everything. Test. That's my description gonna be. You can also use your description to be helpful for you. So now you're on the screen diagram where you're creating your workflow. There's also a screen text, but as for me it's more confusing, and diagram is easier to work with and more clear, so I'm using diagram. So here's a diagram in our empty canvas. As you can see, there is already a start point and an open status, which is going to be there either way. So for me, open status is basically all the stories we have in a backlog. So I'm gonna keep it. The next, and here you see the transition from start to open, which is called create. Basically, every created user story is going to have a status open. The next status for me is going to be to do. To do for me is actually defined scope of the sprint. All the stories which have a to-do status are the stories which need to be finished in the sprint. There is an option to allow all statuses to transition to this one. I will not be using it just yet because I can edit it later if I need to. So far it's okay. So here's my to-do. So after my stories are created, I will pick some of them for the development, for the scope of the sprint, and those I pick will have a status to do. Next, when we have defined the scope of our sprint, we will start working on it. So the next status after to do is going to be in progress. This means that a member of a team started working on a task, on an issue. story or subtask, depends on what's happening for you. And the next after that, when the work is finished, they have to run it through TDD. So if the TDD was successful, the subtask is going to have a complete status. But complete is still a work in progress, because finished work is only work that is delivered to the end user in terms of sprint accepted by the product owner. So everything before that is work in progress, which is why you see that in progress and complete are both in blue color and specify the category of in progress statuses. So this is for subtask. When the work is complete and the TDD was passed successfully, we consider that subtask is now complete. And when all subtasks are complete, our user story is ready to be tested by the user acceptance testing department. So the next status we want to have is testing. And since testing is still a work in progress, it also has a blue color. What happens when user acceptance tester tests the user story and checks all the definition of done? If all definition of done are passed, they can move the story to complete. If not all definition of done are passed and some of them have failed or simply missing, then we say that story is not complete and it is going to be reopened. If the story is reopened, it is going to be transferred back to the developers, and they will have to do some corrections, whatever they have to do to reach all the definition of done, and then it needs to be tested again. And if all definition of done were implemented, then this story has a status of complete, right? And when it's complete, it's assigned to a product owner that they can go ahead and verify for themselves if the value was delivered. And if the value was delivered and a product owner is happy about the story and considers the story to be finished, only then we can be speaking of the done status. So here's our point A, open, here's our point B, and to do, in progress, complete, testing, and reopen are all the stops on the way to done. Here you have to be very careful because there is a difference of how you handle subtasks and how you handle stories. In our workflow, we usually divide, when we have a story to deliver, we usually divide it into subtasks. So the different members of the team have to perform different small subtasks to get the state of complete, to get started to the complete state. Usually subtasks cannot be checked by the user acceptance tester because those are assignments, technical assignments, invisible to the end user, which is why it cannot be, subtask cannot go through the testing stage, because in this case this is user acceptance tester and it needs to go through TDD, through the program test written for the functionality. So you have to be careful here because there is a different way subtasks are going to go, and there is a different way the stories are going to go. And handling those different ways stories and subtasks will be going through this workflow is creating transitions between the statuses we just have created. Creating transition is here at the top. First you need to choose the status for which you are creating a transition, and then you can choose and create your transition either by clicking Add Transition and using a drop down, or by directly creating a transition from one status to another right here on a diagram. So here we have open status, and open transites to do. Open transites to do, and here I can name my transition, and I want to make it, again, I want to make it humanly readable. You want to make it as much clear as possible for the whole team. From open to do, sprint scope defined. Screen, I don't want to use any screen. Okay, here's my first transition. From open to do. my next transition is going to be in progress, from to do to in progress, and the name of the transition is work has begun. When the work is now for a subtask, work has begun for a subtask, and when the subtask is complete, I'm going to transit it from in progress and to complete. So I will not be moving a subtask to a testing status, because testing is for the user acceptance tests. So in progress for subtasks, I'm sorry, is going directly to complete. Subtask past TDD. So that it is clear and everybody can remember it, and they don't have to think, okay, what's the status here and what is used for. When every subtask in a story has passed TDD, we consider that the story is ready for user acceptance testing. So here's a transition for a story from in progress. It goes to testing, and the name is story is ready for user acceptance test. It's not very nice, but whatever. Okay, so after a tester try to test this story, and if it was done according to definition of done, they will claim that this story is complete. All DoD were implemented, right? And if not all DoD were implemented and some of them failed, we will go from tested to reopened. Not all DoD were implemented. And when the story is reopened, it will then when it's reopened, we will have to start working on it once again. So as we work on it and we have corrected or rectified all the issues, then it can again move to testing. So you need the story from reopen to be able to move to testing again. Issues fixed, story ready for retest. And say right now tester makes another test, double checks everything, and they believe that it's complete, and then all DoD were implemented, right? And from the complete status, when it has that all the DoD were implemented, this story, it could transit to done when it's accepted by product owner. So here's the workflow, the normal workflow for software development, the way we use it. It represents basically all the stages we go through. And I don't think I'm missing anything, any transitions right now. Okay, so at this stage, you basically have your workflow created. And you can start using it for your projects. For example, when you create a new project, you can pick this workflow directly, or you can even use edit to the existing project, replace whatever workflow you have there. But before that, you have to create a workflow scheme, as I mentioned before. And say it's the same menu, it goes to add workflow scheme. Again, give it a name that you will understand, that you will know that this is a scheme and this is the scheme that you need. So we'll call it sample workflow scheme. Same description, test. What happens here is you basically bring together the workflow you have and the issue types you're going to use in your project. So here at the top you can see the add a workflow option. I choose add existing because I've already created my workflow, and here it is, my sample workflow. Yeah, it is. Okay, and at this stage, I want to choose which issue types I need. That's again up to you. Normally, in our projects, we use epic as the largest thing, story as the next big thing, subtasks, bug, of course, and that's it. So here is the issue types that will be present in my project. This one I'll just remove. I don't need this one. And now I have created my sample workflow scheme. So if I want to use it, I will just go and choose the project that I'm interested in. Here's our software development project example. I'll go to choose my project and then settings. And workflows. Here in the menu, I can either choose add a workflow to this project, or I can switch the whole scheme, meaning the workflow scheme. If you're switching the scheme, you will also replace all the issues. If you just change in the workflow, issues will remain as they are, and you will just change your workflow. Okay, so let's, some reason it's Scrum default scheme. Here I choose my sample default scheme. Sorry, this is Scrum scheme sample workflow scheme, and I click associate, and now it's going to ask me to make my decision which of the existing statuses are going to be replaced with the new statuses. So here you have to make your decision manually. So for all the approved stuff, I'll choose done. Be careful here because again your issues might disappear from the screen, but that is fixed through board settings. There is a different video to explain you how to handle that. So here I choose that everything approved will now be considered done, and I choose associate, and now Jira will just visualize for me that it's work in progress. It's applying my new workflow to the project, and it will ask me to acknowledge that I accept. Okay, so now I have applied the workflow, and I have my workflow used for my project. And the next step I want to do is I want to go to board settings and make sure all my statuses are in the right columns. I remove approved because I'm not using it anymore. I keep done here. To do, I keep here, and in progress reopened, testing and complete. Yeah, basically pretty much that's what I wanted to see. Open and to do assignments are in to do column. In progress, in progress we have in progress and reopened column. Statuses, sorry, and in done we have testing and complete, and in approved we have approved. So right now all my issues will be visible for me on my backlog and my board and everything. So that's pretty much it. If you have any good ideas about your own workflow, please do implement them. It's very helpful and very easy to use.